So tax year end has a funny habit of doing something odd to otherwise sensible people. And I, for clarity, don't put myself in that category. My partner certainly doesn't. We all know the deadline. We know roughly what's on the menu. And yet, year after year, we still end up with clients rushing decisions late in March, admin teams under pressure, and that lingering sense, and I think on both sides, that this could have been calmer, cleaner, and frankly, better. So we wanted to look under the bonnet, and on behalf of Wealth Time, we asked 1,000 advised UK clients, UK adults, what tax year end actually feels like for them. So not the rules, not the allowances, the experience. And what comes through is a really clear story, one that I think has some really big implications for how we approach tax year end going forwards. So the first headline is this: tax year end isn't failing because clients don't care or they're forgetful. I mean, they may well be forgetful, but it's failing or coming short because confidence isn't what it could be. When we built a tax year end confidence index, and that's based on worries about making mistakes, missing allowances, being rushed, not having the right information, the average score of all advised clients came out at 45.7 out of 100. So that's not indifference, that's hesitation. And around a third of clients, if we take that stat to be true, fall into what we'd call low confidence territory. And here's the key behavioural point. Low confidence doesn't show up as panic. It shows up as delay. So people who aren't sure about doing the right thing don't act earlier. They put it off. They hope clarity arrives later, which of course means that decisions get compressed into this, I guess what you could call least forgiving window of the year. So arguably the real challenge at tax year end isn't about explaining more, being more proactive necessarily. It's about action or making action feel safer. And that brings us to the late rush, the phenomenon of the late rush. So looking at our research, almost a quarter of clients told us that they did most of their tax year end activity in the final week last year. And that also includes a chunk that left, quite a significant chunk, who left it to the last couple of days. But here's the really important bit. This isn't what clients want. When we asked them when they would ideally prefer to hear from their advisor about tax year end, nearly 6 in 10 said end of February. So what that means is this late rush isn't a behavioural flaw. It's, I guess, a runway problem is one way of putting it. Effectively, clients want earlier structure. What they often get is later urgency, and urgency without confidence doesn't produce good decisions. It produces rushed ones. So the opportunity here is this: turn tax year end into a two-stage process. First, an early confidence building check, and then follow that up with a clean execution window. So we get less drama, better outcomes. The next finding really surprised us. When we asked clients what would most likely increase their likelihood of taking action and taking it earlier, the winner wasn't, interestingly enough, clever tax explanation. It wasn't a reminder of allowances. It wasn't even urgency. It was friction removal. And when we say that, what I'm talking about is things like make the admin easy, give me a clear checklist, help me understand what to do first. In other words, clients don't need more motivation, they need less hassle. And that's a really powerful reframing, because it means that the most effective tax year end prompt actually isn't a message, it's a system. A simple health check, a short list, a clear next step. And I think that's where advisors quietly win, not by being louder or more persistent, but by being easier to act with. Now let's talk about regrets. I've had a few, and I will stop there for your reassurance. Nearly 3/4 of clients told us that they had at least one regret from last tax year end. And interestingly, the top regret wasn't paying too much tax. It was feeling rushed. That's important because regret is one of the few emotions in finance that actually predicts future change, if, and it's a big if it's handled well. Handled badly, regret becomes guilt and avoidance. Handled well, It becomes a reset. And I think here's where the opportunity is. When we ask clients what they plan to do in the first 30 days after the 6th of April, the intent's absolutely there. It's ISAs, regular savings, pensions reviews, tidying up accounts. But 1 in 5 already suspect that they'll put it off. So that doesn't bode well, does it? So I think it's about tax year end and the way that we see it. It doesn't finish on the 5th of April. It finishes either after you capture that reset or, in technical terms, let it toddle off. So finally, I think one stat that I think should really make advisors pause. Only 18% of clients said that their advisor prompted them to take tax year end action last year. Now, that doesn't mean that advisors aren't valued or certainly they're not doing their jobs. It means that that prompt moment, the engagement trigger, if you like, is often being ceded to noise, partners, media, or last-minute realization. And whoever owns the prompt owns the relationship moment. So this isn't about spamming clients. It's about owning that structure, setting the pace. It's about framing tax year end as a confidence-reducing exercise. No, the opposite of that. We'll keep that in. A confidence massaging exercise, not a pressure-inducing one. It's earlier, clearer, and calmer. So if I had to boil it down to one line, it would be this. Tax year end isn't a deadline. It's a confidence intervention, at very least a mini intervention. Start earlier than clients expect. Tell them what matters for them. Make it easy to act. And use regret not as a stick, but as a bridge to a better system next year. I think do that, and some of the interesting things that we've talked about actually start happening. Fewer panics, fewer admin bottlenecks, better decisions, and stronger client trust. And that's really what this research is all about.